Hey everybody, welcome to a special bonus episode of Nexus at Night. I'm Root Beer and I'm by myself again because Atlas is on vacation at the time of this recording and I don't know how to check my sound settings. So, Bushiroad had his weekly reveals and we got a whole bunch of Stoicheia reveals for a bunch of Grand Blue styled cards. So, let's get into it. So, first things first, we have our new Grade 3 boss, which is Mysterious Rain Spiritualist Zorga. So he has a continuous skill, Vanguard Circle. When you would play a normal order, you can bind a normal order with a different card name from your drop, and Alchemagic. You combine the costs and add the effect of the second order. And then he also has a skill that lets you counterblast one and call a card from your drop zone, which is the far worse skill of the two because he doesn't give power or anything. So this is a super interesting card because this is the first time we're getting the idea of calling two orders at the same time. So, you play one from your hand and then you can bind another one from your drop zone. So let's just say hypothetically you had a card that counterblast to do something and another one that soul blasts to do something. Now you get both. And so, of course, with this will need orders to go with it. So we have Grief, Despair, and Rejection. You play it with Counterblast 1. If your Vanguard is Mysterious Rain Spiritualist Zorga, you choose 3 of your units and it gets power plus 10,000 until end of turn. Neat thing about this is it's any units, not just your front row, so if you ever want to power up something in your back row for whatever reason, it's an option. And then we also have Spiritual Body Condensation. You play it with Soul Blast 1, and you call a card with grade equal or less than your Vanguard from your drop zone, and it gets power plus 5,000, so if you Alchemagic with these two orders, then you have plus 10k to 3 things and a card from the drop zone. So that's pretty neato. This is just a really cool new playstyle to introduce. Orders were always kind of neglected towards the end of V. So seeing them get a spotlight with this deck, and especially getting that Grand Blue flavor of recycling orders in your drop zone, I think is really, really neat. And I would also like to mention that in the first pass at trying to record this, Atlas had mentioned that the Grade 1 order reminds him of the condensation scene in American Dad. So, on top of those things, we also have the ride chain for Zorga. So we have Black Tears Husk Dragon, the Grade 2. When it's placed on Vanguard Circle, you can choose one normal order from your drop zone, put it into your hand, and then Continuous Rearguard Circle. If you played an order this turn, it gets power plus 5,000. And then we also have Rancor Chain, the Grade 1. So act, you Soul Blast 1, draw 2 cards. You discard an order, and if you don't discard, you discard 2 things instead. And then Continuous, if you played an order for this turn, it gets power plus 2,000. So, I think the Grade 1 is really nutty. If you have an order in your hand, you just plus 1, and Matt had noted that, with this being the thing, you kind of want to just hard mulligan for orders in your opening hand, because, you have the ride deck, you can just get a handful of garbage and still ride up to your intended ride chain. And so, in the first pass of recording this, Matt had mentioned that it's really cool that we're getting all these different play styles. Stoicheia Magnolia is going to be very attack focused since it has all of the back row power-ups. And then you have this card Zorga, who's more focused on building a board and getting a lot of utility in with these orders. Something Matt would like to see is a Grade 2 order added into this set as a way of giving more options so that you're not just stuck playing Condensation and GDR, because otherwise this is kind of boring, right? Kind of linear, same strategy every time. If we had a Grade 2 normal order, it would round up all the grade levels in this deck, and also give you different options so that you're not just doing the same thing every time. And then on top of that, we also have the QA, so if Zorga's not on the field, obviously you can't Alchemagic because Alchemagic is a continuous skill on Zorga. Using Alchemagic will only be regarded as playing one order, and then The order in which you resolve all of this is like you specify that you're playing a normal order from your hand. At that same time, you bind a normal order from drop zone. You pay both costs, and then you resolve both of the effects. And from the way the QA is worded, it seems like you resolve both effects at the same time as like part of one blanket skill, which would make sense with the idea that you're only playing one order. So yeah, I think all these new Grand Blue style cards are super neat. It's nice seeing a really new, unique play style that really takes advantage of a lot of the mechanical changes that they're making in Overdress. It'll also be interesting to see if maybe we could mix the drop zone playstyle with Magnolia. I think, like, because of just how good Rancor Chain is, I think it might be worth playing that and Husk Dragon just to get all of the insane plussing off of that in Magnolia, and also setting up Spiritual Body Condensation, because since you have to discard for your ride deck anyways, you're going to have at least a couple things in your drop zone, so you can kind of turn that back into a rear guard by recycling condensation. So that could be a really cool option. And as long as Zorga and Magnolia are at least somewhat equivalent, it'll be really nice that instead of just being the one thing that your clan does, back when we had clans, it's just like, alright, there are different variations of nations, and they had already said that every nation is going to be getting kind of a second archetype, so it'll be interesting to see what they do for all the other clans. And while not all of them are going to be equivalent to each other, as long as there's enough variety that's at least somewhat competitive, we should have a really good direction for the game going forward. And I think Matt and Atlas are also pretty excited if this is going to be the direction they go in. So, on top of the reveals of all of the Grand Blue style Stoichea cards, we also got Sentinel reveals. So we got Twin Buckler Dragon. It's a Sentinel, has the usual only 4 Sentinels in deck restriction, and then when it's placed on the guard circle, you can choose one of your units. It can't be hit until end of battle. And then, if your hand has 2 or more cards, you can discard. You choose a card from your hand and discard it. So, if this is the only card in your hand, it becomes a 1-card PG, which is really neat. And Matt is kind of glad to see Grade 1 PGs come back because, with the changes to shield values, 18k is now actually a pretty threatening number because there are only 5k shields, so if you swing 18 into 13, it's like, alright, trigger or 2 cards. And with grade 1 PGs, you can now cut down on the number of 5k shields you have and get more 15k shields, more triggers in your deck, so that it's easier to guard numbers. Still, a bit of trepidation on the fact that 10k number is a very noticeable gap that's only being filled by defensive triggers right now, but, we're still at the beginning of the game. We need to actually play a few games with these new numbers and kind of see what things are going to end up being like. And Matt has also heard from other people who are already playtesting that getting over triggers doesn't actually feel that bad, and because of the guard number changes, it's actually preferable to just draw the over trigger because it's a 50k shield and you really could use that. And also, Matt's gonna drive check it on damage every time. He's gonna play Murakumo, he's gonna put down Huang to try and force you to take damage, and then immediately check the over trigger and just not be able to get any counterblast. It's Barber's Law. There's only one, so of course he's gonna see it in the worst time possible. And, I think that's it. We like the direction of the new PGs, and also the fact that they're rares now instead of double Rs like they've been for a very long time is good. Should make them more accessible. Hopefully all of the other nations get equally interesting cards like we saw with Zolga and Alchemagic. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/Nexus at Night. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Nexus at Night. All of our individual accounts will be in the description. Thank you to our $10 patrons, Darren and Cole. If you wish to donate to our Patreon. $5 plus donations will get you a whole ass bonus show. $10 donations will get you a shout out on the show. And you get to see episodes a day early. Thank you for watching. I'll see y'all next time.